A patient goes home 1 week early after a lung transplant. And another, and another. A high-level athlete performs 20% better physically and mentally. And another, and another. A vitamin-protein complex boosts the immune system and improves autism in a child. And another, and another. Hey, it's Marco Pelosi III, and this is the Top Cosmetic Gynecologist Podcast. The science is impeccable. The potential is mind-boggling. The work is the product of an unlikely alliance, a fusion of two disciplines, something special. I would like to read you an email from Dr. Rupinder Ruprai, a trusted colleague of mine who is a gynecologist and an aesthetic surgeon based in Dubai. She sent this to me about a week ago. My dear genius doctors, it gives me great pleasure to send this email where I would like to introduce Professor Dr. Ralf Herwig from Austria, currently practicing in Munich and Dubai. He is a urologist and an andrologist with a special interest in reconstructive surgery and an even more special interest in ongoing research in molecular genomics and proteomics, cell delivery systems, reversal of disease processes, and much more that I was astounded to hear during our last meeting. Now, this meeting that she refers to was a dinner in Dubai, and Dr. Ruprai had sent me via WhatsApp a million notifications saying I must meet this Dr. Ralf Herwig from Austria. And so here we are today with Dr. Ralf Herwig to discuss his innovative research, which goes far beyond urology. In fact, its impact goes far beyond medicine and has the potential to improve the health and functionality of every human being. This is not an exaggeration. Ralf, if someone who is not a physician, not a scientist, not educated in health and medicine were to ask me what it is that you do, I would say that you have found a way to optimize the human body for performance without drugs, and that this breakthrough is founded on basic principles that have existed for decades. So, first of all, hello, Ralf, and thank you for coming on.
Hi, Marco. I'm really proud about being contacted by you and have somebody like you as a big shot in the field who's going to listen to me and to our research we are doing here over about 20 years at the universities in Münster, in Vienna, Austria, and in Graz.
Now, Ralf, can you describe in general terms your current field of research? I mean, that was my interpretation from the doctor who contacted me. But how do you describe what it is that you do when somebody asks you, aside from being a urologist, you are also a world expert in X? How do you define that?
World expert in X. So I'm especially interested in immunological principles and their cellular and non-cellular reactions. And our second field is generally described as reactions on oxidative stress and the different reactions in the body.
Now, all of these processes, is this a unique field? Because this seems like it's basic science, basic physiology, just basic human function.
You see, this is a relatively young field in scientific research, and many of the cellular and tumoral reactions are currently not fully understood. In oxidative stress research, we were lucky to prove for the first time the precise impact of free radicals on human single cells within the human body. This needs a special model. Guess which model cell we found? Sperms. Sperms are single cells within the human body environment without any cell-cell interaction, and sometimes affected by high amounts of so-called free radicals. We could prove for the first time that not only the mitochondria, the power plants in our cells, are destroyed, but also the microfilaments who are responsible for movement and cell integrity. On the other hand, we found more than 2,400 different proteins, many of them not described before, and of which over 700 were damaged in case of high oxidative stress, and therefore they are unable to work properly. And the second thing is we found something that we are calling at the moment the master switch of our immune system. So we found out that there is a very special regulation system which is not completely has not been completely discovered before. And if we just put the knot on this point, our immune system is starting to work properly and is going to dissolve problems that we are not able to dissolve from giving medicine from outside.
All right. So to summarize these general points, which might be a little heavy for the non-medical, non-scientific listener, the sperm is a perfect study vehicle for the human body because it is a single cell and it is easily obtainable. And it's something that we are very familiar with in the field of urology. So it's something we've been studying for years. We also have a process of free radical formation, and free radicals are generally a negative thing. They are part of disease processes. They are part of catabolism, of things breaking down. And so anything that helps to control free radicals is good for you. And the third thing that you touched on is that the immune system has a quote-unquote master switch that if we are able to turn it on, will help the immune system to function better. So we're addressing two things, fixing the conditions of catabolism, of breakdown, and boosting the immune system. Is that pretty much it?
That's perfect. Perfectly described.
These are two huge, they're interrelated, but they're not the same thing. Is that correct? Or are they deeply and intimately associated?
They are very, very highly interrelated, but they are, in our current view, they are more or less completely different things. So they're working together, but you have to look at them separately to get the right reactions.
Now, from a scientific standpoint, when you do research and you wish to present the research and broadcast your findings to the world, now if we're going back 20 years, we're going back to journals and we're going back to meetings. We don't have a viable internet that's any good. So going back 20 years ago, you are a urologist. First, how did you get involved in this type of science?
Well, that was a very funny thing. So well, I was trained as a normal general surgeon, where I started from, and then I had a colleague, and he asked me to help him in the laboratory while he was doing his normal duties in the university hospital. And therefore, he took me to his lab, and then he had many other things to do in the hospital, and left me there. And I started thinking, and then I tried this and that in the field of oncology with the cells, with cell analysis, and then we found out all these things. So I became, let's say, a normal researcher in a field which was not very good established at that time in general surgery.
So your colleague was he also a urologist, or was he something else?
No. My colleague is professor for biochemistry at the University of Graz, and we met about 20 years ago. And then we found out that we have so many points where we meet together. So biochemistry means medicine, and normally these two entities or these two specialties don't talk too much with each other. So the doctors, the medical doctors think, okay, they know everything about biochemistry, and the biochemists don't have a real relation to diseases. So they are exploring what's going on in the body, but that's the end. And to transfer what the biochemist finds out and how he is able to modify and what kind of benefits it brings to the body if you put it into medicine and to a strategy to treat several conditions. This was not very good known at that moment. And we had about 150 papers together and found out many things about, let's say, biochemistry reactions on the human body, which leads to malfunctions. And then we gave several substances to the patients, and had some double-blind placebo-controlled trials, and found out that you can help with simple things, just with simple ingredients that in part the body produces itself, but not in the right amount at that stage, that you can help the body to heal himself much quicker and much more effective than before.
Excellent. So going to, remember that this is 20 years ago. This meeting could not have happened online because searching was primitive. Google wasn't around. Smartphones were not around. So the unique environment at the University of Graz created this meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, the unique environment of the University of Graz and Vienna. And it is, you see, it is only 1.5 hours drive, and then we could meet together and sit in the garden, having a nice barbecue and discuss things that you normally don't discuss when you're in a laboratory environment. And then you get to funny ideas, and one of the funny ideas was to produce products out of our research, which is not very normal, or not the normal way that it goes if you're working at the university. You're doing basic science, you're doing your research, you have your results and say, okay, this is something that you could influence, and then you maybe influences with some substances, but putting this into a product that somebody can use to have the effect, this is not the normal duty of the university. And there was a missing connection, especially in this field.
Right.
Because we thought that this is really needed, we founded a company in 2015, active since 2016, and we produced our products out of it. And now we are able to bring it to the market.
Now, for the first 15 years of this, was it just simply basic science and studies, or was it mostly basic science and then 2015 was the beginning of the actual use in human, or was it just that by 2015 everything had been tested to the point where it was ready for market?
Well, it was a process. You see, so 20 years ago, we did the basic science. Then we found out what principles are behind it. Then we found out how to modify these principles. Then we found out which substances you should use for it. And then we had the combination of special substances, and then we went into clinical medicine and did our research there and found out that our hypothesis 5, 6, 7 years ago was the right one, and it is working. And it does exactly in the human body what we were thinking about at the beginning. And then in 2015, we were ready with our products to go to the market.
Now, every scientist who is working hard on his research or her research has a moment where they see something that they expected, but it really lights them up. It makes them feel validated that, aha, we are onto something huge here. Did you have a moment like that?
Well, well, to be honest, yes, we had that 2-3 times, but then we said, okay, before we're going to shout out, oh, we are the big shots, just check and double check and triple check if everything is correct. And during this process, of course, sometimes you have the feeling, oh, it's not that big. But now at the end, we think we have some really nice pieces in science that are quite attractive to be observed.
So what was the first observation that you made, that you had to test, but that you said, if we're right, this is very significant? What was the first? Was it an application or was it something else?
Yeah, well, it was a testing system. And well, as many times, it was something like an accident in the laboratory. So I just wanted to establish a special test on cells in our laboratory. And the testing system included that you have to take some white blood cells from a normal person as a negative control. And I took a sample from the laboratory next door, which was the routine laboratory, and I found out that there were some circulating cells. Now we know these cells were macrophages, and these macrophages were not negative for this testing. And I said, okay, you're an idiot. You are not able to perform a simple test, and closed the laboratory, went home, and did the test next day again with my own blood, and found out that these cells were not detectable in my blood. And I retested the blood of the laboratory next door, and they were positive again. And then I found out, oops, there is something going on. These cells shouldn't be in the bloodstream, because this is something that have never been observed before, and it was not believed that this is happening at that time. And I found out that these cells were circulating macrophages containing intracellularly what they have eaten, phagocytized. And inside I found fragments of tumor. and these cells are running through our bloodstream and are giving the signal to all the other immune cells what they should attack in the body. And this was a new testing system where this is now something like liquid biopsy. So you take a blood sample, ask the right questions, and get the information. There is something going on, what is going on, and then the more in detail you ask your question, the more in detail you get the information without having a sample from the tissue. That was the first thing that we developed or that we recognized, and from that point out, my macrophages were like my little pets.
So your macrophages had never been found before, or testing macrophages as a tumor marker had never been done before?
This is both is correct, because the actual hypothesis says that macrophages are coming from so-called monocytes who are circulating in the bloodstream, and then they are going out into the tissue. They develop into mature macrophages, and then they are doing their work. They are phagocytizing, which means they eat and incorporate the bacteria or viruses or complete cells, and then they die at the site where they did the phagocytosis. And nobody believed that they are going back into the bloodstream and circulate and going to deliver the information that they got from the processed cells. And that was the first time. And when I tried to publish it or to report it on a conference, everybody was laughing at me. And now, 20 years ago, it is more or less an established thing and established model. And it has been proven that these first findings were correct.
That's amazing. What was another breakthrough moment for you with a similar kind of shock and disbelief amongst in your own mind and also in the community that you were in?
Well, the second thing was about the oxidative stress, and my friend was working with oxidative stress parameters for a long time. In fact, he developed several of the now commonly used ELISA kits for carbonyl proteins, malondialdehyde, all these long-term parameters for oxidative stress. And we found out that even antioxidants like vitamin C or vitamin E have to be recovered. Otherwise, they react as a radical as well. And then we were working on a possibility to recover these antioxidants and to engulf these free radicals and make them harmless and not destroying any proteins, any lipids, or DNA or RNA, or whatever they find in the human body. And this is more or less a very simple thing if you are involved in biochemistry. So we have a molecular complex which we're putting the free radical in. We take it into the cell and take the free radical as an ignition to have the next reaction, which makes from our molecule ATP, which is nothing else than pure power in the cell, and makes the cell run. So we are converting rubbish into energy directly in the body, and we don't have to bring it out with lots of energy what we have to put in to clear the body.
So when you're attacking oxidative stress, you're delivering a substance into the cell.
Well, this is the substance that we are using is a normal substance which we are producing in our cell cycle, in the Krebs cycle, but sometimes it is not produced in that amounts that we need it to clear all the free radicals. And we just supply the body with the right ingredients, and then the regulation, our own regulation, can clear the rubbish by itself.
All right, so this is going to make the organism function better at a higher level of performance. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. You see, the funny thing is that oxidative stress has been proven to be related in over 200 different diseases. The reduction of oxidative stress helps the body to recover and fix the problem by himself. This is a very old idea, but in the modern medicine, a completely new way of thinking. And this is let's say, the way how you help the body to help himself. And this deals with over 200 different diseases, which is not very common to be believed. Okay? If you have a headache, you take an aspirin. If you have this, you take this. If you have back pain, you take something else. And to take one and the same thing to clear different diseases with the same underlying condition is something new in modern medicine.
Right, I understand, because in real science, it's like a holy grail. And if you go back 150 years ago, you had the charlatans promoting the snake oil that cures everything. But this is not that. This is unfortunately, we have that background in medicine that makes people skeptical as soon as they hear this fixes many different things. That they roll their eyes and they say this is not science. It's a bias that scientists and physicians have.
That's right. That's completely right. But you see, the idea is you have the snake oil to cure several diseases, but there was no science behind it. Now we have double-blind, placebo-controlled trials who demonstrate that we can modify the body-own biochemistry to help the body to clear all these things. We have underlying science with it.
So let's take it from the laboratory to products that are used in a clinical setting. And I know that you started your company in 2015 with I think 3 or 4 products. So let's take a product that you would be using to assist in the management of a disease. So pick me an example disease and an example application of one of these products, so we get an idea of what it is that we're actually seeing here.
Okay. Let's pick preparation for surgery. So surgery is a stress situation for the patient, for the body. And we had a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial where we gave alpha H 10 days before and 10 days after major surgery, a really major surgery, which in fact it was a lung resection for a lung cancer. And we have found out that we have much less complications. We had 6 days less in hospital stay, 1.5 days less in ICU ward, and a very much quicker recovery from surgery in in compared to the placebo group. So this is one of the applications, for example, for alpha H.
What is alpha H, if you can explain it?
Yeah, well, alpha H is a combination of alpha ketoglutarate, which is produced in all of our cells. For example, in the Krebs cycle, it is 5-hydroxymethylfurfural, which is the brown color of the sugar if you heat it, and carnosine. Carnosine is made out of 2 peptides, and this is available in our body. But for example, AKGs, in case of higher performance, sometimes there is a deficiency in the substances, and we give the right supply for it.
Okay. How is alpha H administered in this lung resection patient?
It's very simple. It's a drinking shot. It's a shot of 20 milliliters. You put it into 150 milliliters of water, and then you drink it in the morning. That's it. You give it for 10 days before surgery and 10 days after surgery. This is something that you can dissolve in 100 to 150 milliliters of water, and then you drink it in the morning, and that's it. In smokers, we could prove that this is reducing the free radicals up to a level that is reached by non-smokers. And in sportsmen, we have performance enhancement up to 20% of their normal performance. And this is proven by the Cologne Institute, the Cologne Doping Institute, and it's not doping. So more or less doping without doping.
All right. So now that's, you don't just get to say it improves sports performance and walk away. We have to get into this. So when you have a substance that you take to enhance sports performance, what your substance is doing is just attacking the free radicals. So it's allowing the body to process all of the negative, the garbage, faster. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, you have a quicker regeneration. You are not that. You don't have this typical fatigue in the muscles. It enhances the performance during your sports, and it clears from the free radicals who are produced in higher amounts, even if you are doing sports like a hobby. And we have tested it in several world champions. We have a football team, the youth football team from Austria, who were third in the world championship now. And we have tested it in basketball in the first league here in Germany. And they are all very happy about it.
Now, when you say you tested it, the clinical testing on athletes, can you describe a study that you did?
Yeah, well, we have a collaboration with the Institute for Sports Medicine in Innsbruck, and they were testing the high-performance sports guys, and we found out that you have a quick clearance of oxidative stress parameters and an enhancement in performance, and this is what we have published too.
Now, when you measure the performance, was it the time in like a track and field event that you were measuring? Was it weightlifting power? Was it something else? What were the metrics of the analysis?
Yeah, so you put the sportsmen onto this band and let them run, and you're doing this before and half an hour after supplying the alpha. And normally as a sportsman, high performance sportsman, you know exactly your timing, what you need for, let's say, 1 kilometer running, or as a cyclist, they know exactly how far they got after half an hour. And if you deliver alpha, for example, you have 2 kilometers more on your scale. And this is in a high performance sportsman, this is a huge gap.
That certainly would be a huge gap. And I suppose that as far as the recovery and the preparation for sport, it's the same by improving the organism's ability to get rid of the free radicals. You're improving both sides of the equation.
Yeah, that's right. You're not that tired. You don't have this muscle pain afterwards. You have a quicker recovery. And you can run more. For example, my boy is playing in the U.S. He's playing soccer, and normally all the others can run 90 minutes, and he is able to run 120. So now we are supplying the whole team.
That's phenomenal. Now,
and hope to get the championship next year.
Well, we hope you win as well.
Now, for anti-aging and just for people in general to feel better, this seems like something that would be a no-brainer. That's something that are you using this product?
Yes, of course. So we found out that, for example, skin aging is it's based mainly on free radicals who destroy the cellular ingredients, and that causes loss of water and wrinkles and whatsoever. And therefore, we put our system into our new cream, and guess what happened? You can see, even after a few minutes, you can see that there's a reaction, and we could measure inside the skin, the so-called skin cells, the fibroblasts, are recovering, and they're producing 60% more of energy, and recovering very much quicker than other cells, and you get a rejuvenation of the skin. Which is very, very astonishing for us, but it works quite quickly.
All right. So you have Alpha H is the oral product.
Yeah.
And you're delivering it now in a cream for skin. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, we have Alpha H as a product for recovery, for more performance. Then we have a special preparation for sportsmen, which is called Alpha H Sports. And we produced our skincare, which is called High Care HG.
Okay. So this is the side of your research that deals with the oxidative stress, correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right. Now the cream itself, we have. I'm a gynecologist by training, and I'm a cosmetic gynecologist as well. And some of what we do involves lasers in the vagina, and so I'm intrigued about the possibility to use this type of a cream in the vagina. And as you know, the skin of the vagina is slightly different than the skin of the outside of the body. So the absorption is slightly different. Have you tested it in the vagina or not yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. Maybe this is one of the reasons why Rupina contacted you.
Absolutely, because we use carboxy therapy, we use platelet-rich plasma. We're injecting all sorts of products into the vagina, but the problem is nobody likes needle sticks, especially in a sensitive area. So if there's a cream that can be applied that can do the same thing as injections or something similar along those lines, it's going to be a very welcome product.
So
Well, I'm pretty sure that it will work because it goes into the skin very quickly, and the ingredients are not only harmless, they are sucked in.
Yeah, that's the only concern when you move from one membrane to another is how much of the product is getting in, and is there a danger from too much product getting in too quickly? So I think you've addressed both of those concerns.
Yeah, this is the difference. So all the ingredients that we are using are completely harmless. They are body-owned products which have been proven. Even if you inject it in high amounts into the body, it does not make any harm because it is body-owned substance.
Okay, let's move over to your immune system research, the master switch that turns on or boosts the immune system. Tell me about this in the clinical setting, and maybe a little bit of the research. Not too much because it's heavy stuff for a short podcast.
This is really heavy stuff. So maybe you have seen that in many scientific papers. One of the major focuses is now on vitamin D and the reaction of vitamin D. But the problem is the supply to the body. So sometimes if you have a vitamin D deficiency, for example, it's very hard to do the supplementation. If you take vitamin D orally, you have to take 50,000 units per week over half a year, and then you see an elevation of vitamin D. On the other side, if you get too much vitamin D, then you get the serious side effects of it. And we have found out that there is a special vitamin D protein complex combination, which makes the vitamin D water soluble. And the reaction on different cell types of the immune system is quite really astonishing. So it is working on T cells, it is working on macrophages, and makes the action of these cells much quicker and much more effective than before.
Now, tell me about the link between immunotherapy, if this is what we're calling it, and the treatment of autism.
Wow. So this is a very, very new field. But if you look into the new scientific publications, there's more and more evidence that not only environmental or genetical problems are triggering autism, but also immune defects, immune deficiencies, and sometimes inflammatory diseases who are affecting the nerve cells of the brain. And therefore, of course, immunology is one of the now evolving major parts in autism disorders.
Okay. So you have a product, Immuno-D, specifically for autism, and you have a separate product, Immuno-D, specifically for immune system boosting, if that's what you want to call it. How do they differ?
Well, you see, autistic kids have special requirements. So in Immuno-D, ATSM, what we call it, autism, there are special ingredients that you normally supply to autistic kids as well, like the vitamin D, but also carnosine, but also alpha-ketoglutarate to reduce the oxidative stress, and trehalose, which makes the whole thing sweeter because the kids don't like to swallow something that tastes bitter or somehow awfully. And therefore, we created a special formulation for autistic kids. And the Immuno-D, the classical one, has a higher dose. You take it for other conditions. So some of our friends who are oncologists are really taking Immuno-D classical one because it puts the patients into a much better quality of life situation, which we measured by the classical questionnaires and the classical clinical methods.
Okay. Now, let me try to put myself into the mind of somebody on the street who is not a physician and hears about Immuno-D and says, would it cure the common cold?
Sorry?
Let's say that I had a cold, an upper respiratory tract infection. Okay. We know that antibiotics don't work. We know that taking medication like Tylenol just soothes the symptom. But if I were to have an upper respiratory infection and I were to give myself Immuno-D, would I expect my immune system to just blast this upper respiratory tract infection away at the record speed?
So without having any scientific proof of it, even my 10-year-old son is coming up, and if he feels something like the flu coming, trying to affect him, he's asking me, Papa, can I take Immuno-D? And normally around 5 to 10 hours later, all the symptoms are gone. But you see, this is not this is a personal observation, and of course I'm taking it myself. My whole family is taking it themselves, and we will hope we will get this into some more established research settings. But as we are at the beginning of all this, we have to focus on several, let's say, several fields where you can administer it. But of course, this is one of the things that I'm using it personally for.
Well, I think it's important to ask the quote unquote silly questions and address them before the use of them in a non-scientific fashion sort of corrodes the actual science that's solid and that's making a real impact. Now, I'm looking at your website, and I'm sure that this is just a small sample of the different modalities for these products. But going back to the autism, the ones that I'm seeing on the website are vials that look like they're made for injection. So when you have the condition of autism, are they receiving an oral formulation or a combination of oral and injectable?
So this is a normal dietary supplement, and it's absolutely sufficient to take it orally. The reason why we put it into this injection ampoules is just a technical thing. Normally, this vitamin D protein complex, this dimer, would not be stable in liquid, so this is more or less a technical thing. That means if you have this vitamin D protein complex, you either have to store it if you freeze it, or what we did is we did so-called lyophilization, which is the same thing that you do with instant coffee. You take the coffee and put it into powder. And because we have a quite small amount of ingredients inside, we have to take some small ampoules. And we found these ampoules are quite, let's say, quite suitable for it.
Right.
No, I think every mother who has ever used baby formula is familiar with the need to reconstitute a product. And everyone who goes into athletics and uses protein powder is used to mixing the powder because it's not stable in the liquid form.
Put some water in, and then you just shake it for 30 to 45 seconds, and then you can just drink it.
Now, obviously, medical insurance companies would view this as experimental and would not be covered. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's unfortunately correct. Because if you want to get into this process, you have to go through all these administrative things, and then can take years until insurance company wants to cover that.
Okay, so let's say that someone who's listening has a child with autism, and they would like to try this product for their child. Does this need to go through medical doctor monitoring, or is this something that can be just purchased directly and simply following the directions for use?
So I would like if you would contact your doctor and have somebody to observe it, because if you're 5, 6, 8,000 kilometers away and supply it to your autistic kids, you should have, let's say, some kind of guidance. So we know that the product is safe, that it does not cause major side effects. And of course, you could administer this by yourself. But if you have an autistic kid, you should be in a medical observation, and you should tell the physician about what you're doing there.
Now, do you have any involvement with physicians that treat autism? Are they aware of this technology?
Well, we have several physicians around the world who are dealing with our product, and if somebody is interested, he just can, or she can just leave us a note via our website, and we can put them in contact, even in the US.
Oh, that's fantastic. The U.S. is large. Is it West Coast, East Coast, and centrally located people, or are there just one or two?
All three. So center, East, and West Coast.
That's fantastic. And I see that on in the website, the price is €440, which is about, I guess, $500 US. Now, how much of a supply would that be for the child with autism? How long would that last you?
In autism, it is you give one shot per week, and after 4 weeks, you should know if this is doing something good for the kid. So either you have a real remarkable reaction after 4 to 5 weeks, or there is, let's say, some other underlying case.
So there are remarkable reactions. Are you saying that?
We have done our scientific research with standardized questionnaires, and at least half of the kids had some kind of reaction, which means less aggressive, more communicative, more mobile. One of our little patient was really aggressive, and after 5 weeks of treatment, she was able to go to school, to ride to school on their own bike, to choose their clothes, to put on the clothes. She was starting to hug with the siblings, and everybody was quite confident with that.
Now, was this placebo-controlled, or was this just a straight-out clinical observation?
Well, this is, let's say, intrapersonal observation. So we had the status before, the status after 5 weeks, and then we had a washout and had a status how they are reacting afterwards. And sometimes you need after that you need another boost, because you can't you cannot expect that a years long condition will be solved within 5 to 10 weeks. So treatment can involve the immuno-D, but sometimes you have to redo it or take it for a longer time, and this is of course depending on the condition of the kid.
Okay.
Now, let me. I was just thinking of different scenarios. I've had patients who are going to have their bone marrow stored for radiation therapy or chemotherapy, and then given back to them. I would see a role in this to prime that immune system, so that when you take out the bone marrow that you're going to use later, it's been supercharged, so to speak, and then subsequent to the bone marrow transplant, to be using this to just enhance the new condition. Have you used it in this setting?
Well, not yet. So we have several patients under chemotherapy. We have several patients under radiotherapy. And we advise the patients to take, for example, during this period, we advise them to take the alpha to get rid of all the rubbish that is produced in the body during these procedures. And shortly after chemotherapy or radiotherapy, we advise the patients to take Immuno-D, and what we observed is that the recovery of the cells and the cell lines is much quicker than before. But this is an ongoing observation at the moment, and we don't have hundreds of patients at the moment to prove that this is constantly right. But our primary observations are quite like this.
This is fantastic.
All right, let's say that next week I have a patient who is going to have a major surgery, and I am aware of Immuno-D as an excellent way to boost the immune system. I am aware of Alpha H as a great way to prime the body to deal with free radicals. What would you recommend to physicians in that same situation who want to use it for their patients, if they wanted to use it? First, what would be the cost or the regimen, and how would they go about obtaining it, and is it approved by the United States FDA?
To answer your first question, I would put the patient at least 10 days before surgery on Alpha H, and take it continuously until 10 days after the surgery. Directly on the second day, because the recovery of the immune system after the major surgeries is about 3 to 5 days. Between in this gap from surgery to 5 days after surgery, the immune system is more or less flattened down. This is what I have published a few years ago in Major Surgery. So my recommendation would be start on day 2 with Immuno-D, wait for 3 days, give a second shot, and then see what happens with the white blood cell count.
Okay.
The second question is FDA. You see, as this is a dietary supplement for special medical purposes, the requirements for FDA are not that sharp like giving medication from outside the US. So we are currently working on that, but let's say in special cases, a patient can order it to us, and we can deliver it. And we are working on, let's say, distribution system for our products in the US at the moment. But that's not the biggest deal, because we have this dietary supplement.
So my understanding is from what you're saying that if I have a patient who's going to have surgery, I'm going to recommend, if they're a cigarette smoker, to stop smoking. If they're drinking alcohol, to stop drinking. And to take, if they ask for dietary supplements, they can take regular vitamins, but they can also take this substance, which falls into that same realm of recommendations and that same category of intervention. Is that correct?
Correct. Absolutely correct.
All right,
That's reassuring. So we've covered a lot here, and we've covered it at different levels and not too deep. But you started a company, and your company is based. Is it in Austria or in Dubai?
It is based in Austria.
Okay.
So and we are now preparing to have another second base in Germany.
All right. So currently the distribution of your products as it stands at the moment is where? Is it Western Europe? Is it just Germany and Austria? Is it all of Europe? Is it Africa? Is it Asia?
So we have our clients in Australia, China, India, in the Middle East, in Russia, in whole Europe, and maybe in the future now we have some clients in the U.S.
Well, I think that people that listen to this podcast in the U.S. are going to be contacting you, and you're probably going to have to get a new phone or a new computer to handle the volume. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a luxury problem.
Yes. Now, how much product are you able to deliver? I mean, what is your production capacity at the current moment able to handle?
So we are here sitting in Austria, and one of the products from Austria, which is quite well known, is Red Bull, and so you should be aware that we are able to deliver more or less every amount that we want to deliver.
Okay, so if China said we want to order 1 million boxes of Immuno D, you can produce that?
Well, that doesn't make me sweat at all. So 1 million boxes of Immuno D is let's say a production range. Production time of about 2 or 3 weeks.
So is your production all based in Austria, or do you outsource it elsewhere?
No, it's based in Austria, and we have all our production sites who are certified, and we do it under very, very strict conditions, not only the so-called HACCP. We do it under ISO 9001, which is a very strict regulation, and all the production sites are
so they're meeting the top criteria for production facilities. Is that pretty much what you're saying?
Well, we have our FDA registration for our production sites, and we have delivered all the addresses. And if the FDA is willing to visit us, they know how to contact us. So we have prepared for the US market, and we have contact to the FDA. And we have registered our products at the FDA. We are just waiting for the go, which can happen, let's say, the next weeks.
How large is your company? How many people do you employ?
At the moment, we are just a very small company with about 25 people working around here. And at the production site, are additionally 10 people who can do more or less all the things that we need for the production. And we have outsourced printing and production of the ampules and of course.
That's great. I mean, this does not sound like I'm speaking to a scientist and a urologist. It sounds like I'm talking with an entrepreneur, which is great, because that's the kind of person that I run into the most in my world. It's just people on the cutting edge. Now,
well, during the last years, I had to learn a lot of things about this.
Yes. Well, it's a necessity if you're starting a company. Now, I'm on the website of your company, HG Pharma, and I'm going to put the link to the website and a link to your contact information in the show notes. It says that you're the current president of the Austrian Andrological Society. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So you're running a society, you're running a company, you're running a practice. What else are you doing? You're the head of the Reconstructive Urology, Andrology, and Men's Health of Vienna Urology Foundation?
Yes, which is, let's say, a small foundation, even developing at the moment, and I'm giving that to a colleague of mine who is maybe he's even better than me in dealing with all the things, and I'm more concentrating on our small company at the moment.
Right.
But I'm still seeing patients in Dubai and Austria, and shortly in Germany. I need the feedback how it works with our products, and you see, I'm doing that over many years, and then you get something like a routine in it, and you're dealing with certain problems very oftenly. So you have the routine to do it in a, let's say, shorter time than a beginner does.
Right. So what led you to go over to Dubai? How did that come to be?
Dubai, yeah. Well, that's more or less an accident tour. I had a very old friend living in Dubai as a permanent citizen there, and he had a daughter with a, let's say, special disease, and we treated it here in Austria successfully 25 years ago. And since that time, we are still in contact and became good friends. And he said, okay, come to Dubai, see the country, maybe you can do something here. I said, oh no, come on, Middle East, and I don't know anything about the country and the people. And I went to Dubai at some time to a conference, and I found it quite interesting and quite, let's say, good medical environment that had to be developed at that stage. And suddenly I found myself there in the clinic working at the moment on a regular base, about once a month for a week. And I'm quite happy with that.
That's great. Now, do the majority of your patients speak languages that you speak, or do you have to have an interpreter?
Well, my Arabic is very bad, so I need an interpreter, but most of the people are speaking either English or German, and with these two languages, I'm quite confident, because then I can talk to my patients. If needed, I can speak a little bit French, and but that's it. So mainly German and English, or I have an interpreter.
Then how in Dubai did you come into contact with my friend Lieselot Mettler, which led up to this entire conversation?
Lieselot Mettler. I'm working with Lieselot Mettler since many years, because she's working in the same clinic, German Medical Center in Dubai. But unfortunately, we only met once or twice per year because we had a different schedule. Well, the last times we were in Dubai at the same time, and then we were sitting together and talking. And okay, you're born in Austria, you work in Germany. Okay, I'm born in Germany, I work in Austria. And then we would talking about our hobbies and what we do during the rest of the week if you're not dealing with gynecology or urology. And then I told about our products, my research, and all the things. And she found it very interesting. And then I found myself the same evening in a meeting, in a dinner meeting with Rupinar and with Jorge, and a very nice guy, and very interesting reconstructive gynecologist, by the way. And then we started conversation too, and the rest of the story is what we started with in this conversation.
Yeah, and it's been a phenomenal conversation. Now, I would like to thank you for sharing all of your research information, for taking the time, and for innovating in a way that really is going to impact a lot of people in a very positive way. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for your interest, and I'm very happy that I could give some thoughts of my work to you, and hope to hear very soon from you.
Share this podcast and this website and this blog with the people in your life who you feel would benefit from this information.